Our folks in Florida, particularly the South Florida search and rescue teams, have been working tirelessly and relentlessly. It's obviously physically very taxing. It's also emotionally draining. As many of you know, they were able to identify a child whose father worked for the city of Miami Fire Department, and these are tough things for them. I mean, obviously we focus on the families, and rightfully so, but our folks have gone through a lot who've been out there, and I think that added support really means a lot. And so I just wanted to publicly thank, again, the folks I met in Virginia, as well as Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I also want to thank the President for supporting doing 100% reimbursement for some of the things here in terms of costs like debris removal. It can be very pricey, particularly for a municipality and even for a major county like Miami-Dade, and obviously the state would have a share of that as well. So he was very, very supportive of doing a 30-day reimbursement. That'll be very, very helpful, I think, to all levels of government here in Florida. So we appreciate that commitment. Of course, as many of you know, Tropical Storm Elsa has now become Hurricane Elsa, and we are working. I've ordered our Department of Emergency Management to start preparing a potential state of emergency, so I'm going to be working on that today. If we do the executive order, that will assist our emergency response team in preparations for Hurricane Elsa. Now, we don't know exactly the track that it's going to take. It is possible that we could see tropical force winds as early as Sunday night in southern Florida. And so we're actively monitoring the situation like we always would do with these storms. But given what we're doing on this site, we're also paying special attention to any impacts that could happen here in northeast Miami-Dade County. It is possible that this area could see tropical storm force winds. Not guaranteed, but it is possible. And so our Department of Emergency Management is assuming that will happen and making the necessary preparations to be able, obviously, to protect a lot of the equipment. You could potentially have an event with the building as well. So we are going like we normally would with these things. This is just what we do, but we're adding this special emphasis on this site because we understand the sensitivities involved. How it will work most likely is the further west that this thing tracks, the less likely, of course, there'll be impacts here, but it would likely be stronger when it got to the Gulf of Mexico. The more it interacts with land, the Dominican Republic and Cuba, the more likely you would be to slow it down. But there will be some impacts in Florida, at some point, starting as early as Sunday night. So we're going to be working on that and working on this. We'll do them both on a dual track, and obviously our emphasis with the storm, do what we normally do, but then also a special sensitivity to anything that would need to be done to make sure that the efforts here are supported and protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. And now for Spanish remarks, Lieutenant Governor Janet Nunez.
All right, we just heard from Governor Ron DeSantis there, a little update from his perspective on the search and rescue there at the collapse site in Surfside. And the big news, many of our reporters and crews were able to get a bit of information, and the mayor or the governor just confirmed it, that a City of Miami firefighter's child was found in the rubble.
It's just heartbreaking to see exactly what they're doing and firsthand how they have been working around the clock, although the search and rescue efforts were halted yesterday for close to 15 hours. But they're out there. They have family members that are there. And as you mentioned, the governor just confirmed that a child whose father works for the City of Miami Fire was recovered there at the site.
I mean, it's tough enough that what they're doing, the job that they're doing, how difficult it is emotionally, but then to find, your own child or a partner there finds your child.
Yeah, to know that your child is there amidst the rubble. So just heartbreaking, and of course our heart goes out to, and our prayers to all the firefighters, the first responders who have been working there, all the families and the victims who have been impacted, of course. So they have not given us an update on the numbers, but as of late yesterday, it was 18
still, yes.
18 people 18 bodies were recovered, and still about 145 are still unaccounted for.
And some other information is coming out of this. Obviously, everybody's got their eye on Hurricane Elsa right now. The governor does as well. So he is already preparing a potential emergency order. Hopefully would not have to use it. Emergency management also preparing the site there for Elsa. I mean, you got to lock down a lot of equipment, especially if we get tropical storm force winds, which, you know, it could happen. The way it's tracking now doesn't look like we're going to have too strong of a wind. It's just going to be kind of breezy. But you have to shore up the equipment that's there now, and you also have to wonder about the building itself that remains standing.
Yeah, yesterday, the reason why they had to stop the rescue effort is because of the integrity of this building. They had mentioned that it had shifted, so structural engineers were out there all day making sure that it was safe, it was secure. They're talking about the possibility of demolishing, which eventually they will. Now, when they will do that, they still don't know. But preparing for a hurricane is something that we are all too familiar with, so we know the procedures. However, they're putting a lot more emphasis on that site specifically, as you mentioned, because of all the debris, because of the integrity of the building that's still standing, and all the heavy equipment. Let's go back and listen in now to the press conference. Debbie Wasserman-Schultz is coming up next.
Thank you so much. I had a chance to meet with a number of the families this morning, both survivor families as well as families that are still struggling to know about the results with their own family members. And I can tell you that both following yesterday's visit by President Biden, meeting for 3 hours with the families, and then their sense today that there is so much more relief and reassurance and comfort following his visit. That the role of consoler-in-chief is so important, and it's one that President Biden really does better than no one else. I particularly want to stress his proactive announcement that the federal government would provide 100% reimbursement for the next 30 days. I know I began talking about that and the impacts on the budget for little towns like Surfside and even the county, as the governor mentioned, knowing that those costs are going to be taken care of 100% in the first 30 days of this crisis is really important, and it takes a load and a burden off of our governments here that are responding. I want to also emphasize that with the potential onset of a hurricane, we're certainly taking a whole of government approach to this. We always take a whole of government approach to when a hurricane potentially is going to hit our shores. So making sure that you're ready, that you prepare for a hurricane, the hurricane possibly coming now, and make sure that you have your 7 days of supplies and get your house and your personal belongings in order, and make sure that you have a plan to keep yourself safe if it does come closer to our shores. And then lastly, just something really important, because as time goes on in a disaster, we often have the bureaucracy start to set in, and we're talking about people here, so we want to make sure that they have accurate information. At the mobile office hours that I have at the Family Assistance Center, and talking with families yesterday, there's starting to be concerns. Some of them are staying in hotels, and the time for them to stay in a hotel is going to run out, and they want to know how can they get access to the federal relief if they don't qualify for federal relief, which if they're not citizens and don't have a U.S. citizen child, then they wouldn't. Where can they get access to the charitable relief, because the charitable relief has been so incredibly generous. Everyone who needs access to the individual assistance or help from FEMA or from the charities that have been working to assist families would do so at the Family Assistance Center. Make sure, if you're a family in need that has been impacted by the collapse, to go to the Family Assistance Center, register with the Family Assistance Center if you have not done so already, and also make sure that you register with FEMA, which you can also do at the Family Assistance Center. And then, our office is always available, and I have staff on the ground at the Family Assistance Center to help cut through any of the red tape. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Now Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava.
Here we are, day 9. Yesterday evening, just before 5 p.m., the search and rescue mission was able to resume operations, as you all know, following the engineer's evaluation. Our first responders have been hard at work, as they have been this entire time, continuing to search through the pile that is accessible to them. And last night we did discover 2 additional victims. Tragically, one of those victims was the 7-year-old daughter of a City of Miami firefighter. And it goes without saying that every night since this last Wednesday has been immensely difficult for everybody, and particularly the families that have been impacted. But last night was uniquely different. It was truly different and more difficult for our first responders. These men and women are paying an enormous human toll each and every day, and I ask that all of you please keep all of them in your thoughts and prayers. They truly represent the very best in all of us, and we need to be there for them as they are here for us. With these developments last night, we now have we've now confirmed 20 deaths. 188 people are accounted for, and 128 are unaccounted for. And you'll notice that the number of accounted for people has increased, which is of course good news. And it is one of the reasons that it has increased is that in some cases in which we originally received a report of a potentially missing person, that report was only marked as one person. But when the detectives were able to reach and verify the safety of the person in question, we discover that there are, in fact, several family members who could have been counted for potentially in the building, and now we can mark them as safe. So this is very, very good news. Again, that's 188 people accounted for. Our detectives are continually conducting an ongoing audit of this list as we verify every single angle, every single report, so that these numbers will continue to change. As we've said all along, they're fluid, and you can understand exactly why. Our engineers and our Miami-Dade Fire team have continued to evaluate and test the site as they work to expand the search area as quickly as possible and as it becomes safe to do so. We're proceeding with our evaluation of all of the factors all of the time and the impacts related to the demolition of the building, while the search and rescue continues as our top priority. And it is important to stress, as our engineer explained yesterday evening, that a demolition cannot be done overnight. In fact, it takes weeks to demolish a building. We continue to aggressively monitor what is now Hurricane Elsa. We could potentially feel sustained tropical storm force winds as early as Sunday midday. We'll be joined by our Weather Service and our Department Incident Commander Charles Cyril and our Florida Department of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie to provide more detail on our preparedness for the site and our storm prep for the entire community. So please stay tuned. I want to once again remind everybody here in South Florida that hurricane season is very much upon us, and it's important to make sure that you have a plan in place and that you take key precautions at home. Everyone must prepare now for the eventuality of a storm. As we've been saying all along, the level of coordination and collaboration between Miami-Dade County, the state of Florida, the city of Surfside, the federal government, and all of our local partners is truly unprecedented. This is truly unprecedented, and we know the world is watching. This has been the largest non-hurricane related emergency mobilization of resources in the history of our state, and it would not be possible without the ongoing cooperation and commitment of everybody on the ground. So please, let's all continue to keep the victims, their families, our first responders in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you, and God bless. Aquí estamos en el día 9. Ayer por la noche.
Okay, you're just hearing from Mayor Levine Cava, Daniela Levine Cava, on the latest, and the big news coming out of this is there are 2 more bodies that were pulled from the rubble, and sadly they confirmed that it was the daughter. One of them was the 7-year-old daughter of a Miami firefighter. The latest numbers now, there are 20 deaths, 188 accounted for, and then 128 unaccounted. And that's impressive because that number dropped dramatically from overnight. Yesterday it was 145.
Right, and the reason being is that while the detectives are doing their investigation, they're reaching out to the survivors and those who exited the building and realized that there were more families that also were able to escape safely. So she says that that's the reason why those numbers are fluid. But as the days go by and we keep hearing all these stories, this one just, you know, it's heartbreaking to know that all these first responders have been working around the clock, and to know that a City of Miami firefighter's 7-year-old daughter was in that building and was recovered last night. It just breaks your heart. It really does.
Just mind-numbing and heart-crushing, no doubt about it. Let's check in with Jim DeFeet. He's standing by. Jim?
No, I completely agree. I mean, obviously there is shock over the loss of the 7-year-old child from a Miami firefighter, but this is the first bit of good news when it comes to that number of unaccounted for dropping by almost 20 that we've seen in days. I mean, that's 17, 18 families that we thought would be severely impacted that will not be now. I mean, that's something, like I said, there hasn't been a lot of hope to cling on to in the last few days, but that number dropping, and then hopefully it can continue to drop. Look, there are going to be a large loss of life at this site, but every time we can take that number down a little among the unaccounted for, that's something to celebrate.
At this point, it's the little victories that we're finding coming out of this. So, Jim, we got to talk about the demolition. She did mention that it's not something that happens overnight. This is going to take perhaps weeks.
No, you're absolutely right. And not only that, but they also want to be careful as to how they bring that structure down. They do not want to necessarily just topple it onto the existing pile of rubble that's there, because that could cost them time in terms of their investigation. They'll try to bring it down, I'm sure, in a way that is almost leaning to the other side to find an adequate place to bring it down that way. So it's very tricky, and anyone who's been involved in demolition would know that buildings, as the mayor said, it's not something you just decide tomorrow, let's bring down this building. This is going to take time, but the storm force winds, that's a real concern. It's a concern for any building, but let alone one where the foundation is so severely compromised as it is now.
Absolutely, and we're not talking just about the building, which is obviously the most important, but you have large equipment, you have tons of debris still, you have metal rods, you have just, lots of stuff that could go flying around. So they say, I mean, obviously preparing for a hurricane is something that we are all very familiar with, and we're used to dealing with this, but when you add a catastrophic event like the one in Surfside, it makes it even so much more difficult. Spanish is over with the mayor, Jim. Let's hold off a second and let's check back in with the press conference now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to all who have collaborated and cooperated on this terrifying few days that we've been here. I can confirm, as the governor and the mayor have stated, that the City of Miami Fire Department has lost a 7-year-old daughter of one of our own firefighters. She was recovered last night by members of our Urban Search and Rescue Team and Florida Task Force 2. Our chief is asking that all of you respect the privacy of the immediate family as well as our fire department, which is understandably grieving tremendously. I'm the father of 2 children. I have a 7-year-old son, and the thought of losing him in this way is unimaginable for me and my family. And I think this tragedy has haunted so many of us because so many of us know someone who has been in the building or affected by this tragedy. And so now, not only do we know someone, this is someone that's a member of our family, of our fire family. So that's why I'm here today. Estoy aquí agradecido a los esfuerzos de todos, particularmente.
All right, Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. We haven't seen him, but I think one day last week, obviously he is here showing support for his City of Miami Fire Department, and obviously the firefighter there who lost his daughter in the rubble. She was recovered overnight. Again, a 7-year-old little girl.
And you can just, hear it in the mayor's voice. He himself is a father of 2. He's a father of a 7-year-old child as well. So he was, just talking about that and sending out his condolences, as well as asking the public and the media to respect the privacy of the family, and as well as the fire department. This just goes to show that this is something that has affected, so many people.
And obviously the mayor's taken this very personally. Jim, let's check back in with you.
No, I think one thing that's important to note, he said that that Search and Rescue Team 2, Florida Task Force 2, that's the City of Miami's own urban search and rescue team. So it was, in essence, the City of Miami Fire Department bringing out the child of one of their own. So that just makes it all the more chilling.
It sure does, and it just goes to show the emotionally draining experience that this is for all the first responders, everyone that has been out there for a day's end, working around the clock, doing everything possible. We saw them on their hands and knees, moving debris by hand and putting it into buckets, and to know that a firefighter's daughter was in that rubble, it's just heartbreaking. And not just her, still there's a lot more children and complete entire families that were there. So let's go back in and listen into the press conference again. Now
good morning. We continue to closely monitor Hurricane Elsa as it moves over the Caribbean Sea this weekend. By late Sunday or early Monday, we expect that the storm will be emerging off the coast of Cuba and approaching or getting pretty close to Florida during the Monday to Tuesday timeframe. So as the mayor and governor said earlier, the tropical storm force winds could begin as early as Sunday here in South Florida. Most likely, based on the official forecast, it would be Monday and possibly even into Tuesday. So we do have this weekend to prepare for the possibility of tropical storm conditions at least. There's still a lot of uncertainty, as you've heard. There's still a lot of uncertainty in the forecast, how it will evolve, how the storm will interact with the land areas that are to our south, and that could affect not only the intensity or how strong the storm is, but also the track that it takes. So right now, we'll continue to closely monitor the storm. We'll be providing, of course, advisories every 6 hours, and just to be ready, look over our preparedness plans this weekend, and be ready for the potential of tropical storm conditions, along with heavy rainfall early next week. Brevemente en español estamos siguiendo de monitorear.
Okay, we're listening to the National Weather Service. They're saying they're keeping a very close eye on what is now Hurricane Elsa. He is saying that the possibility of early Sunday, Monday into Tuesday, the possibility of at least tropical storm conditions, but there's still a lot of uncertainty at this point.
Right, it'll be close to Florida after it crosses over Cuba Monday, Tuesday. Of course, the track can always shift, and we can listen to Lisette talk about this a little bit later this half hour. They have the weekend though to prepare for this. You got the rest of today, Saturday, and hopefully most of Sunday to be prepared for this before we do start feeling tropical storm force winds. If that actually happens, our meteorologist at this point saying it looks like it's just going to be kind of breezy around here, which would really help, because that structure in of itself, if it's got to take 40-mile-per-hour winds, and then we could see wind gusts too, wind gusts of greater than that. Yeah, the uncertainty it's exactly what it is. It's just uncertain.
Division Director for Office of Emergency Management, Deputy Incident Commander Charles Cyril.
Good morning, everyone. With Hurricane Elsa strengthening into Category 1 hurricane, the Miami-Dade County Office of Emergency Management and the Florida Division of Emergency Management are working together to assess all potential impacts as it approaches. As we enter the holiday weekend, please ensure you monitor the progress of this storm and begin your personal preparedness. Make sure you have 3 to 7 days of supplies on hand for each person in your home. Additionally, residents are urged to begin securing their home in preparation for potential impacts. Any objects that can easily be blown away by a hurricane winds should begin to be secured, either tied down or brought indoors. Examples are garbage cans, patio furniture, etc. And be sure to take tree trimmings to your local trash and recycling center. It is critically important that these preparatory activities begin today. Also, be sure that your emergency equipment, such as hurricane shutters, and battery-powered radios, are working and are in order. Please test them today. Find out if you live in an evacuation zone, know your zone, and as always, the 311 contact center is available for any questions. If you would like more information, please visit miami-dade.gov/emergency. Miami-Dade County officials will continue to monitor the storm and will ensure any advisories in conjunction with the National Weather Service as they become necessary. Stay informed of all latest developments by downloading the Ready MDC app. Of course, the ongoing search and rescue mission, as well as providing support for the afflicted families, remains our highest priority. Our Family Assistance Center is open from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week. There are currently 26 organizations there providing services to the families and their survivors. Mental health, grief counseling, financial lodging, travel, and many other services to those in need are being provided to date. Currently, there are 63 families that have been served. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. And now in Spanish, on behalf of the Deputy Incident Commander, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, Director of Media.
You're listening to Charles Sorrell there. He's from the Office of Emergency Management, and both the Miami-Dade County and the State Emergency Management offices will be working together over the next several days, preparing South Florida for what could be Hurricane Elsa or Tropical Storm Elsa at that point. It's the usual. You prepare for hurricanes. He says have 3 days of supplies ready to go. Secure those outdoor items, because even in tropical storm force winds, they become projectiles, or can be.
I mean, again, this is something that we're all too familiar with here in South Florida. This is hurricane season, and as of now, I was talking to Lisa. She's like, this is quite unusual because there's already 5 disturbances or 5 tropical storms that they've been monitoring or that they've seen. And this happens to be, I think, like the 5th one. So a very active season, and so we here in South Florida, we know exactly what we need to do, moving the debris, garbage cans, etc., any projectiles, patio equipment, to just make sure that you have your plan in place. But what is the most important for them right now is the site. In Surfside, and the building, the integrity of the building, which we know that yesterday the rescue efforts were halted for close to 15 hours because the building apparently had shifted. And they were very concerned about it.
We've been wrapping up these news conferences in like 20, 25 minutes. It's going longer today because you've thrown this another wrinkle into the matter with the hurricane looming just to the south and east of us. Let's go back into the news conference.
Charles Burkett.
Good morning, everybody. As I usually do now, early this morning I spent a good amount of time at the site. I also went up to the family briefing, and I have a couple messages from there. Chief Brian Rafsky has done a stupendous job arranging for the families to be moved around this town and being able to obtain the services that we're offering. They've instituted bus trams, and the families can now just hop on and hop off and get to where they need easily, which is a great step forward. With respect to the maximum effort that's being put forward by Search and Rescue, I want to personally commend Chief Ray Jadilla for working 20 hours a day and sleeping 4 hours a night since the beginning of this. He's the only guy that I see, well, I should take that back. He's the guy that I always see when I'm here, and I'm here a lot. Okay, I'm sleeping a little more than 4 hours a night, It's probably up to 5.5 or 6. But Ray has been a beacon, a rock, a source of hope for the families. He's there at those briefings every single day, answering very tough questions. He is passionate, he's compassionate, he's understanding, and he's, most importantly, he's flexible. He's heard the direction from the county mayor. He's heard the direction from the state officials, from the governor. He's heard the directions from the president, and he's following them. He's not letting bureaucratic roadblocks get in the way. The support for the families is unparalleled. It really is. It's astounding how wonderful and beautiful our resources, our county resources, our local resources, all the municipalities that are joining together. It's like a chorus, and it's just playing beautifully. I mean, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that the families appreciate it and acknowledge it, and they do it over and over again in those meetings. So there's not any dissatisfaction that I've been able to detect, and I'm looking for that, because my role here is, I've got a very small role, but I make it a point to be where everybody is, so that if there is a problem, I can bring it up to County Mayor Cava, I can bring it up to Florida Governor DeSantis, and I can make our senators aware, and that's what I've been doing, and that's been working, because when there has been a glitch, it has been immediately addressed. I want to personally call out and thank Governor DeSantis and Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez for being in Surfside as much as they are in Surfside. It's very difficult for them to run the state of Florida, but also spend as much time as they do here. I can tell you from the town of Surfside, and I imagine from the families and the residents of South Florida, we are all very, very grateful, and it's super reassuring to see their faces all the time around this disaster. I want to also congratulate, listen, we had a very difficult situation yesterday where the work was stopped, and there was incredible pressure on Mayor Cava. Incredible. I know for a fact that I was asking a lot of hard questions, and she was rock solid. She did what she needed to do, and she got that work started up again. And I know the families and everybody else is very thankful for that, and we praise her leadership skills.